Well, the time is just gone 8 minutes past 10 as we continue with the broadcast this morning. We're coming to you live from our studios here at Salam Media. It is Hajj 1444. It is the day of Arafah. And Alhamdulillah, someone whom I've had the opportunity and the pleasure and the company of over the years discussing many Hajj during the time when we were at CII. So I would call him an ex-colleague, but also a brother of mine, Alhamdulillah, and spent many years in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, covering Hajj as a scout on the day of Arafah as well. And Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has certainly blessed him with so much. My brother, Muhamed Nur Nordien, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Always good to be back with you in the studio.
Yes, and especially at the time of Hajj, connecting with you because it's just so much, Alhamdulillah, through your experiences, as a young boy, and Alhamdulillah, you're still young at heart, Brother Muhammad Nur, and not that you're an old or an elderly person, but yes, great connecting with you because this is a special moment. The Hajj broadcast it's a highlight for us on any media calendar. It was in the past on CII and at Salam Media. It's a broadcast we look forward to, and especially today on this special day, on this day of Arafah, Muhammad Nur.
Jazakallah khair. I think we say this every year, and that it's very interesting how the coverage of Hajj has caught up, or how it has, how Hajj has come to your home. And on my phone, you'll see on my WhatsApp profile later, I've got a picture of my granny and grandfather who went for Hajj in the 60s. Like old, grimy little black and white, a few black and white pictures with a bit of yellow tint in the back. And that was all that you got from Hajj. People stayed for 3 months, 4 months. And in the 60s and 70s, I think people still, in the 50s and 60s, people went on ships and it would take 6 months to go and so forth. And then, of course, the advent of flights, and so people still say up to 3 months, up to the early 90s and so. But and that was it. By the time people came back, they just gave you some interesting little anecdotes of Hajj and the odd photo that you might have, and that was it. But with the advent of media, of course, especially satellite and now social media. But if you can track it back to the early 90s, the mid 90s, when there was satellite TV, and then people got the first glimpse of what Hajj looks like if you had a satellite decoder or something of that nature, and if that broadcaster covered Hajj. And then in the early 2000s, CNN and BBC, I think CNN were probably the first to start broadcasting the Hajj. In the early 2000s, the late 90s, they gave news about the Hajj as an event. A news item, millions of Muslims congregated in Mecca today, and that was the news, and a few clips. Also very, very grimy. But still, within the Muslim context, there was no content because there was no Muslim media, there were no Muslim radio stations, etc. Other than what you found within the Mid East. And even at that time, there was no broadcast as the broadcast happens today, And then the early 2000s, 2003, 2004, around that, when there were Muslim radio stations who started broadcasting, sending people there, and so forth. And then I think Channel Islam said that they, we were the first, at least in South Africa, to start broadcasting the Arafah khutbah per se. It was also in that time then when CNN started with live broadcasts from the Hajj, not broadcasting the Hajj, but at least a live report as a news item. But then the BBC and Sky News and everyone else, and Al Jazeera, of course, And at that time also then the Saudi media gave much more attention to Hajj as a program, and in terms of the interviews, and it started taking structure. Then about in the 2016, 2014, around there, then there was a better structure to Hajj broadcasting, how it is done, they do intents, they do it from the studio. It started taking its own format, and now with social media, it takes a new format. So it's very interesting to see, what Hajj is like today. You're sitting here, you watch YouTube. There's like a Quran channel, Saudi channel, this channel, that, different channels, giving you like almost 100 different angles of Hajj happening, and you can flick, and all of these big TVs have like 6, 7, 8 screens. You can watch it. You go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, you go on TikTok, and you can see people in different parts of Makkah, different parts of Arafah doing different things. This actually sitting here today, you can see the Hajj better than someone who is there. So it's very interesting, especially people like myself and you who are, for the lack of, who are professionals in this, who have been part of the Hajj broadcast for over 20 years. It's very interesting learning and seeing how the broadcast has developed. And if anything, I'm actually very anxious when it comes to what it's going to look like in the future. How much more can you do what's going to happen next,
Exactly. And in this whole evolving world of technology, and technology is just moving at such a huge, such a fast pace. There's just so much that the Hajj Ministry and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has actually done, and we've seen those changes, and those changes are obviously noticeable from the time when you were a young scout. Giving people directions. I mean, today you've got apps, you've got all of those things, you've got coordinates, you've got Google Maps, you've got all of that. So all of that has actually changed over a period of time. But the one issue I wanted to actually talk, and in not long from now, we will be listening to the khutbah of Arafah, and it is an Arafah, a khutbah that once a year, but it's a khutbah that's not only meant for the people who are present at Arafah, who are going to be present in the masjid, but also for the Muslim ummah at large. And just your thoughts, Muhammad Nur, on the khutbah, and in recent times, I know you followed some of the khutbahs, and the message that they have been conveying.
Jazakallah khair. One of the reasons I mentioned this issue of the media coverage is that it ties in with the Arafah khutbah, and that is also that it's only in the last 15, 20 years that maybe a little bit more, that this Arafah khutbah has become international, and that and it's being broadcast into different languages and translated, and so forth. So there's also a new event in terms of how the knowledge and the message spreads. Up till again the 70s, be delivered and probably recorded on a note or in a book or something that the Khatib himself had, and it probably just ended there. Yeah, and there in history there are a few khutab of Arafah which are recorded, and that was it. So it's interesting how this interesting aspect of Islam, which is Arafah khutbah, how it had a certain space of influence up till a certain period in history, and then as technology grows and technology allows information to spread, this Arafah khutbah also now has the capacity to not necessarily influence, but it spreads in different languages, real time, etc. And yeah, two guys in South Africa talking to South African audience, talking about khutbah, that's still going to happen in 1.5 hours. So that's the first aspect of the Arafah khutbah. It's how its significance has grown with the lack of a better word, modernity. Um, I think another issue is, that when what is the Khatib of Arafah, of course, has many challenges. The biggest challenge probably is diversity. When you talk to the Muslims there, when you talk Muslims in South Africa, see how diverse we are ideologically. From Salami, Sunni, Barelvi, etc. Tablighi, Deobandi, Salafi, then in the Madahib, Hanafi, Shafi, whatever it may be. Shia. I mean, there are people who are Shia and Ja'afri who are in the Muslim world and who perform Hajj. So I won't say not to offend, but it must be a very daunting task to prepare content, and not again only to the group of people or the content that one knows will travel globally. So I'm sure it's a very daunting task to put for that word safe content out there. But one thing that you always find in all of the sermons of Arafah constantly is the key messages of Tawheed. There's always messages of ibadat. There's always messages of taqwa. There's always messages of Muslim unity. Sometimes if there's like a great event happening in the Muslim world, like unrest or war or something of that nature, then you might find the Khatib, mention some of this. And sometimes, and most of the time, they won't mention it by name, but they'll say enough for you to know exactly what they're talking about. In a very positive way, in a way, that would be calling Allah, asking Allah to, for unity, asking Allah to relieve, etc. in this manner. I think another interesting part at the technical level of the khutbah of the khutbah of Arafah, for almost 2.5, 3 decades, it was Sheikh Abdul Aziz Al Sheikh, who used to be the deputy mufti and then became the mufti of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. For the last 3 or 4 years, it's been rotating between different scholars in Saudi Arabia, and I think in my personal humble opinion, it's probably a good strategy. different scholars, different takes on text, different takes and understandings of the text, but all within the same school of thought in the same understanding and from the same general stream of knowledge and scholars within Saudi Arabia. But yet, different generations, different exposures, different careers, uh, and I think that's hopefully something good when it comes to the khutbah Arafah, inshallah.
Well, inshallah, we're looking forward to that, Muhammad Nur. In fact, I'm sure you are going to be listening with a lot of interest, inshallah. We certainly will be doing that as well. But it's just always wonderful connecting with you and to get your thoughts and to unpack what you have actually ahead of the khutbah. I think it's just very, very important. And what you're saying is extremely relevant in terms of what we can expect, and also more importantly, the message that the khutbah of Arafah is expected to convey for the Muslim Ummah at large. But for now, my brother, Jazakallah as always for your time. Please take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Muhamed Nur Nordien with us this morning just to end this particular segment of the broadcast. Remember, we will still be with you at 11. We will be connecting and we will be taking you through the Arafah khutbah, the translation of the khutbah as well, some analysis and some discussion. So stay with us right here in the company of Salam Media on this very, very special day of Arafah, Alhamdulillah. But I'll be back with you in about an hour from now or just at around 11, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Next up, we will be listening to the recitation of the Noble Quran.